I always thought birthdays were supposed to be about celebration, maybe even a tiny bit of recognition. But in my family, that only applied to my younger sister, Sophia. For me, not so much. This year, though, something felt different. I got a text from my mum inviting me over for a birthday dinner. And that was strange. See, they usually forget or remember 2 days late with a hope you're doing well and a poorly animated gif. Still, I went. Maybe a small, stubborn part of me wanted to believe something had shifted, that after 3 decades of being the reliable one, the invisible one, they finally saw me. I even bought a new shirt. Their house hadn't changed. Same over-decorated hallway, same couch where Sophia used to hold court like royalty. But the vibe? Off. The decorations were, let's call them bare minimum. One store bought cake, no candles. Sophia wasn't even there, which was odd, since every gathering usually revolved around her availability. Dinner was weirdly quiet. They asked polite questions about work, my marketing job, the firm I'd just been promoted at. I tried to feel seen. I really did, but something in my gut twisted. Then Dad cleared his throat. He slipped into that voice, the one he used when pitching ideas back when he still had a tech startup, a tone too smooth, too practiced. "Michael, we're so proud of how responsible you've been," he said. "Red flag. You've always been the one we could count on," Mum added with a forced smile. And then came the real reason I was there. Sophia apparently was in trouble. Again. This time it wasn't just bad grades or a failed job interview. She had borrowed money for some business expansion, which, knowing her, probably involved overpriced cocktails, influencers, and something she called a lifestyle brand. She owed over $200,000 to private investors, and now those investors were threatening legal action. I felt my fork pause mid-air. Dad leaned forward. "Your apartment has appreciated quite a bit over the last few years. If you sold it, you could cover her debt and still afford something smaller." Smaller? Like my dreams? Like my dignity? I asked calmly, somehow, about Sophia's car, her high-rise apartment, her luxury wardrobe. Surely she could sell those. Mum waved dismissively. "Michael, she needs to maintain appearances. That's part of the business world." I laughed. Actually laughed, because it was so insane, so wildly disconnected from reality, that all I could do was laugh. "No," I said. "Just that. One word." The air went cold. My mother's eyes narrowed. Dad's jaw tensed. And then came the guilt, the manipulation, the threats. "If you can't help your sister," my father said, voice ice cold, "then maybe you're not really part of this family." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood up, took my keys, and walked out. Later that night, I sat in my car, hands trembling, the silence deafening, except for one thought repeating in my head. They never saw me as a son, just as an ATM with a heartbeat. And for the first time, I felt something shift, something final, something I wasn't going to walk back. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, the echo of my father's words looping in my head like a broken record. "Maybe you're not really part of this family." I'd spent my whole damn life being the responsible one, the one who sent money home every month, $1,200 like clockwork, even when I was scraping by on cheap coffee and frozen pasta in a fifth-floor walk-up. And what did it get me? An ambush masquerading as a birthday dinner. So I made a decision: no more automatic transfers, no more pretending this was normal, no more enabling. I opened my laptop, logged into my banking app, and cancelled the standing order. The $1,200 would stay in my account this month, and next month, and every month after that. Then I blocked them: Mom, Dad, Sophia, phone, email, social media tight slate. I knew they wouldn't take it well, and I wasn't wrong. Before I cut them off, my phone was already filling up with a tidal wave of texts. Mom sent guilt. I carried you for 9 months, and this is how you repay me. Dad sent shame. You're being selfish, Michael. We've done so much for you. Sophia sent venom. Grow up. You've always been bitter because they love me more. You're the family failure. There it was. The truth in one sentence, not even dressed up. I should have felt crushed, but weirdly, I felt clear. Like someone finally wiped the fog off a mirror I'd been staring into my whole life. But clarity doesn't mean safety, especially when money's involved. And I knew better than to underestimate their entitlement. A colleague at work had once told me about her family drama, eerily similar. She'd mentioned a lawyer who helped her draw boundaries when things got ugly. I still had the business card. So I called. Enter Mr. Grant, calm, collected, and thankfully not at all surprised by my situation. He listened as I told him everything: the ambush dinner, the years of financial support, the escalating pressure. He didn't even blink when I mentioned Sophia's 6-figure debt and my parents' push for me to sell my home. His advice was simple: people like this often don't stop until you draw a hard legal line. I'll draft a cease and desist. We'll get ahead of this before it becomes worse. He also told me to install security cameras. You'd be shocked what entitled people do when desperation hits, he said. Better to be overprepared. So I did. By the weekend, my apartment, the one place that had always felt like mine, had digital eyes on every door. I kept copies of every message, every voicemail, every angry rant they left on my work phone. Yes, they had somehow gotten my office number, my work, where I'm supposed to be a functioning adult, not dodging calls from a family meltdown. When they showed up in person, my boss was the one who called security. I didn't even have to ask. She just nodded and said, "You don't owe them anything." It's funny how strangers and co-workers could show more respect than my own family ever did. The following Monday, the cease and desist letters went out. One to each of them: Mom, Dad, Sophia. Neatly typed, professionally sealed, legally binding. It should have felt cold. But to me, it felt like closure. The silence after the cease and desist letters didn't last long. For about a week, I could breathe. The kind of deep breath that doesn't get caught in your chest. I slept through the night, cooked dinner without checking my phone every 5 minutes, even went for a walk in my neighborhood, headphones in, world shut out. But entitled people don't just stop. Not when they've been told yes their entire lives. It started with the flying monkeys. Texts from cousins I hadn't heard from in years suddenly flooded in. Some opened with concern: "Hey, just wanted to check in." I heard things were intense. Others went straight for the moral high ground. "Family's everything, Michael. You're being too harsh. Sophia's struggling. She's your sister, not some stranger." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I knew where those messages were coming from: my parents. They were running PR like it was a family crisis management firm. Then came the bigger plays. My mum posted on Facebook a long, carefully worded paragraph about a heartbreaking betrayal from a beloved child who had turned his back on his family in their darkest hour. She included a blurry photo of Sophia as a kid, clutching a teddy bear. The comments came in fast. "So sorry you're going through this. Some kids forget who raised them." Sending prayers to you and Sophia. They knew exactly what they were doing, playing the narrative, twisting the optics, painting me as some cold, selfish monster while they wept in soft lighting. I didn't respond there either. because I wasn't going to play their game. I was building something bigger, not revenge, not war, just distance. A whole new life with a firewall thick enough to keep their dysfunction on the other side. But they weren't done. 3 weeks after the cease and desist letters were delivered, they crossed a new line. They showed up at work again. This time they brought Sophia. She was dressed in business casual, like she thought showing up in slacks made her a credible adult. She carried a folder, probably filled with who knows what, fake spreadsheets, investor contracts, maybe even one of her failed app pitch decks. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a sheet that said, "Trust me," in pink highlighter. My boss intercepted them at the front desk before I even knew they were there. I got a message on Slack from reception. "Your parents and sister are here. They're asking for you. HR has been called." I stood there, frozen in the hallway, every muscle in my body screaming fight or flight. They were removed by building security within 10 minutes. Sophia, I was told, cried. My mum called the security guard a thug in khakis. My dad made threats about legal rights. It was humiliating, but not for me, for them. Afterward, I walked into my manager's office, ready to apologize, to explain, to do damage control. But she just shook her head and handed me a cup of coffee. "You don't owe me an explanation, Michael," she said. "You handled it better than most people ever could." That night, I sat in my apartment, my still undisturbed, fully paid for apartment, and stared out the window at the city lights. Something in my chest loosened. A knot I didn't even know I'd been carrying. They weren't going to break me. Still, it wasn't over. Sophia took it to Instagram next, a story post with a black background and white text. "Imagine having a brother who would rather let you drown than sell one apartment." Then a photo of her wiping tears with the caption, "Some people don't know what loyalty means." A few mutual acquaintances sent screenshots. One even messaged me directly, "Yo, is this about you?" Because if so, that's low-key insane. I didn't answer. I archived the screenshots and sent them to Mr. Grant, who was already compiling everything, the texts, the Facebook posts, the workplace appearances. "Good," he said when he saw the Instagram rant. "She just proved she's trying to defame you publicly. That makes our case even stronger if this escalates." He used the word escalates the way a doctor might use tumor. Calm, precise, and loaded. I was starting to get used to it, this new version of me. The one who didn't react, didn't rush to make peace, didn't light himself on fire to keep others warm. But it took a toll. My sleep was fractured. I lost weight without trying. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach tightened. My therapist called it nervous system rewiring. I called it trying to unlearn 30 years of gaslighting. Even good moments felt suspicious, like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I started going to group therapy on Thursday nights, not because I needed strangers to validate me, but because I needed to hear other people say out loud the things I hadn't been brave enough to admit. They only call when they want something. They don't see you, just what you can give. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're survival. It helped. Not overnight. Not perfectly. But it helped. Then one night, my doorbell rang. I checked the camera feed. My parents, standing there, looking nothing like the polished figures from Sophia's social media. My dad had lost weight. My mum looked tired, makeup-free, wearing clothes I hadn't seen since before Sophia's image management phase. They knocked, called my name. Eventually, they left a note under the door. I waited 5 minutes before retrieving it. It smelled faintly of my mother's perfume, the expensive kind. She said she needed to make a statement at Sophia's investor brunches. The note said, "We miss you. Let's talk. Family sticks together. Please don't abandon us. No apology. No mention of boundaries. No accountability. Just bait." I scanned it and sent it to Mr. Grant. His reply came fast, documented. No reply needed unless they return. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a long shower. Ordered takeout. Sat on my balcony with a blanket and watched the skyline fade from gold to blue. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry. I felt done. Not petty. Not vindictive. Just done being the only one trying to make something broken work. 2 months after that note was slipped under my door, the one that said family sticks together without a single acknowledgement of what they'd done, Uncle David called. He's not the kind of guy to make drama. He speaks in measured sentences, the kind you want to lean into, calm, honest, rare in my world. They're not doing well, kid, he said. I didn't ask for details, but he gave them anyway. Maybe he knew I needed the closure, even if I wasn't ready to admit it. They're behind on their mortgage. Your mum's trying to sell off some of Sophia's business supplies on Craigslist. Your dad's talking about getting a part-time job at the hardware store. I let the silence fill the space between us. I didn't know what to say that didn't sound like revenge. I figured you should know, David added, then paused. Not so you'll go back, just so you can stop wondering if you did the right thing. That line hit harder than anything else, because somewhere in the back of my mind, buried beneath all the anger and exhaustion, I was still wondering if cutting them off made me a bad son or just a tired one. Sophia, according to David, had downgraded her lifestyle hard. The BMW was gone. The high-rise was history. She was now living in a one-bedroom apartment with questionable plumbing, as he put it. She'd taken a job at a marketing firm of all places, ironically a competitor of mine. I wouldn't worry, David said with a small laugh. Everyone there knows her reputation already. I should have felt vindicated. I should have popped champagne. But mostly, I just felt relieved. Not because they were struggling, but because it wasn't my job to save them anymore. I had saved them for decades, with paychecks, emotional labour, and silence. Silence every time they mocked my choices, belittled my boundaries, or erased my efforts to keep the family functioning while Sophia played princess. Now they had to function on their own. Spoiler alert, they couldn't. And that, more than any victory, gave me peace. I started to heal in ways I hadn't expected. Therapy helped. So did small, almost invisible shifts, like sleeping through the night without clenching my jaw, like buying groceries without calculating what I could send home, like finally printing the photos from my last road trip and framing them. I even took a solo trip to the Grand Canyon, hiked in silence, took photos, sat on the edge of the ridge, and realized I wasn't carrying their expectations anymore. That weight, gone. Some days I still heard the ghosts, not literal ones, just mental echoes. Sophia's voice calling me bitter, my mum sighing dramatically when I said no, my dad's disappointed silence heavy as concrete. But they faded. And I filled the space they left behind with things that were mine. My apartment, my routines, my freedom. I joined a local photography club. Nothing fancy, just people who liked chasing sunsets with cameras. I made friends, real ones, the kind who didn't expect you to sacrifice your sanity for their comfort. One of them, Ben, invited me out for coffee, then for a hike, then for a movie night with his dog curled up between us like it was the most natural thing in the world. It felt easy, effortless in a way my family never was. He never asked me to explain why I didn't go home for the holidays, never flinched when I told him about the lawsuit threats. He just nodded and said, "Damn, that's brutal, but I'm glad you chose yourself." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear those words until I did. And then the email came. It hit my work inbox on a Wednesday afternoon. just after I'd finished presenting a campaign pitch to a new client. I was still riding the high when I opened it. From Mom Sophia Unified Family accountatsmail.com, subject, "We're desperate inside." It read like a last-ditch plea soaked in desperation and half-digested guilt. "Michael, we are facing eviction. Sophia's car was repossessed. Your father is sick with stress. We know you're doing well. Can't you find it in your heart to help one last time? One last time." As if there hadn't been hundreds of last times before this. As if I hadn't sacrificed so many of my first times, first car, first vacation, first real home, just to keep their chaos at bay. I didn't even blink. I forwarded the message to Mr. Grant with a simple note. They're now contacting me through my work email. His reply came back within the hour. Got it. Adding this to the file. I'll send a formal warning. No action needed from you. And I felt nothing. Not guilt. Not pity. Not rage. Just nothing. That email, once upon a time, would have sent me spiraling into a shame storm. I would have questioned everything. Looked up apartment listings. Calculated how much I could send without hurting myself. Played mental tug-of-war between obligation and survival. But now, I just sat back, took a sip of my coffee, and looked at the framed photo on my desk, the one I'd taken at the Grand Canyon. Sky like fire. Landscape like quiet defiance. They had spent years choosing Sophia's comfort over my boundaries. They chose her ease over my effort, her mistakes over my milestones. And now? They could choose their own consequences too. The week I closed on my vacation cabin, it rained in the city for 3 straight days. Not the dramatic kind. No thunder, no floods, just quiet, persistent rain. A steady hush over everything, like the universe telling me to slow down. I took the keys, packed up my gear, and drove out to the mountains with no music on. Just the sound of tires humming against wet pavement, and the occasional breath I forgot I was holding. The cabin wasn't luxurious. It was modest, wood-panelled walls, a fireplace that crackled like it had something to say, and a view of pines that shifted with every gust of wind. But it was mine. Every nail, every hinge, every sun-drenched morning and silent night. A few years ago, I wouldn't have let myself want something like this. Would have called it selfish. Would have worried about what Sophia needed, or what my parents would say about me having a second home when they were struggling. Now, I didn't even bring my phone inside the first night. I lit a fire, made tea, and stood barefoot on the cold wooden floor, staring at the one piece of family I'd brought with me, a photo. The last one we ever took together. Christmas, 3 years ago. I'm in the corner, slightly removed. My parents are beaming at Sophia like she's the light keeping them alive. I'm holding a glass of wine I didn't even want, wearing a smile that didn't belong to me. I'd kept that photo for too long. As a reminder, a motivator. Proof that I hadn't imagined it all, the favoritism, the dismissal, the hierarchy where I was always second, if counted at all. But I didn't need proof anymore. I needed peace. I placed the photo on the mantel, picked up my phone, hit record, and I spoke, not loudly, not dramatically, just clearly. I release you. I release myself from trying to fix what you broke. I release myself from the guilt you planted in me as a child. I release myself from the hope that one day you'd choose me. I release the version of myself who thought he had to earn your love by suffering. Then I deleted the photo, watched as it vanished, pixel by pixel, like it had never existed. And the strangest thing happened. I felt light, not fake happy light, not Instagram inspo light. Real light, the kind that lets your shoulders drop and your jaw unclench, the kind that lives in your spine instead of your skin. That night, I slept with the windows open. Let the cold mountain air roll through the cabin and settle in my bones. No texts, no demands, no guilt. Just wind and warmth and the slow, honest rhythm of healing. But life, of course, has its punchlines. The next morning, I got a text from an unknown number. Sophia, they're taking the condo, we'll be on the street. This is on you. No punctuation, no context. Just blame, the language my family spoke fluently. I stared at the message for 3 seconds, then blocked the number. No reply, no fanfare. Just a line in the sand I no longer needed to defend. Back in the city, the fallout continued, quietly, almost comically. Uncle David kept me updated, though I never asked him to. I think he understood that information, not contact, was the only bridge I was willing to keep open. My parents were now living in a cramped 2-bedroom condo they couldn't afford. They told anyone who would listen that I abandoned them, but sympathy was drying up. Even the cousins who once sent guilt-laced texts had started to back off. They're learning, David said one evening over dinner, that you can't ride entitlement forever. Sophia was still working at that marketing firm. I'd heard through whispers that she was already under review for collaborative issues, which I'm pretty sure is HR speak for being Sophia. As for me, life didn't become a Disney movie. There were still hard days, still mornings when I heard my mother's voice in my head telling me I was ungrateful, still nights when I wondered if I'd ever be free of the patterns they wired into me. But now I had tools, therapy, boundaries, friends who asked how I was really doing, a boyfriend who never made me feel like I had to shrink myself to be loved. I even started volunteering, a financial literacy program for teens. I taught them how to track expenses, read contracts, and, most importantly, how to recognize emotional manipulation disguised as duty. It felt full circle, like turning my pain into something useful, like building something out of the wreckage instead of just surviving it. A few months later, another letter arrived, this one from a law firm representing my parents. They were now claiming that the money I'd sent them over the years, the $1,200 monthly lifeline, had been loans from them to me. They wanted it back. With interest. $50,000. Mr. Grant laughed, literally laughed. They have no paperwork, no legal footing. This is just another intimidation tactic. We'll shut it down. And we did. I didn't even flinch when I opened the envelope. I just scanned it, sent it over, and went back to my tea. That's the thing no one tells you about freedom. It's not loud. It's quiet. Boring, even. It looks like sleeping through the night, saying no without an explanation, cooking dinner without background anxiety, not checking your phone because you're not afraid of what's on the screen. It looks like finally choosing yourself. Every single day. Story 2. I showed up expecting a birthday. What I got instead was a glittering shrine to my sister's latest achievement. It was my 27th birthday in age I wasn't exactly excited about, but still, I thought maybe, just maybe, my family would acknowledge it this year. After all, they'd forgotten it the past 3 years. Once because Maya had a sinus infection, another time because they were traveling. Last year, they didn't even bother with an excuse. So when I walked into the house and saw the balloons, the cake, and the music, I had this brief, naive moment of belief. They remembered. The front room was packed with people. A DJ setup played upbeat pop. Streamers curled down from the ceiling. A huge table groaned under the weight of catered trays and custom desserts. People turned when I walked in and clapped. I actually smiled. It felt like walking into a movie scene. For about 3 seconds, then I saw it. The banner hanging across the mantel. Congratulations, Maya. Gold letters, big and cursive, sparkled under the chandelier. Not happy birthday, Noah, Not even a shared message, just one name, Maya. She breezed in like she owned the place. White bodycon dress, makeup flawless, cap and gown, draped casually over one arm like a prop. She already had her phone out, posing, pouting, snapping selfies. The applause doubled when she made her entrance. "Oh my God, you guys!" she squealed. "I'm gonna cry." She didn't cry. Maya never cries unless there's a camera nearby or a performance to give. I stood in the corner, still holding the small gift bag I'd brought for myself. It sounds pathetic, but I knew they wouldn't have anything for me. I'd pre-packed a gift and asked my dad earlier that week to hand it to me at the party, to at least pretend it came from them. But this, even I hadn't predicted this. I found my mum in the kitchen and asked, calmly, if the party date was a mistake. She blinked, then looked guilty, then annoyed. Well, we thought we could celebrate both. You don't like big attention anyway, right? Before I could respond, my dad chimed in from the couch like that would help. We got your favourite cake. See? We didn't forget. I looked at the cake. A giant fondant version of Maya's face beamed from the top. Graduation cap. Class of 2025 in metallic gold frosting. Congratulations, Maya, written across the front in script. I didn't say anything. Just stood there and swallowed the lump in my throat. Maya finally glanced over and gave me a perfunctory air kiss on the cheek. "Oh, hey, you made it. Chill, we can totally share the party." "Unless that's weird for you," she said it like I'd wandered in off the street. Then she added, "Oh, hope it's cool we used your credit card for the cake." It was just easier. I felt my jaw tighten. I pulled out my phone and checked my banking app, just in case. Sure enough, $900 stow a local catering company, $500 stow the event hall, $200 for floral arrangements, with a note, "For Maya's big day." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask questions. I just turned around and walked out the front door. They called after me some half-hearted, "Where are you going?" and a snarky, "You're really leaving," from Maya. But I didn't answer. I wasn't being dramatic. I was done. Growing up, I always thought things would even out eventually. That once we were adults, people would start seeing Maya for what she really was. They didn't, because Maya didn't grow out of being the golden child. She just learned how to weaponize it. She was 6 when she first realized she could cry her way out of anything. I was 8. She stole $20 from our mum's purse and stuffed it in her Barbie house. When I found it and said something, she burst into tears and screamed that I'd made her do it. I got grounded. She got ice cream. That pretty much set the tone for our entire childhood. When I got a B+ on a test, I was told I needed to aim higher. When Maya got a C, it was, "She's under pressure, be supportive." When I asked to join a summer camp, it was too expensive. When Maya wanted to do a ballet intensive in Paris, suddenly there was money. I paid for my own college, worked 2 jobs, lived on ramen noodles. Maya, full ride from the family. No loans. Monthly allowance, so she could focus on school. I used to tell myself it was just part of being the older sibling, that I was supposed to sacrifice, that Maya was just going through a phase. Then came the medical lie. A year ago, she called me crying, said she needed $1,800 for a specialist, told me not to tell Mum and Dad. Said it might be serious. I wired her the money immediately. 2 weeks later, I saw her Instagram, yoga retreat in Tulum, beach selfies, crystals, a $600 per night villa. When I confronted her, she blinked at me like I was being ridiculous. "I was having an emotional crisis," she said. "My parents? Let it go, Noah. Maya's always been sensitive." That was when I started pulling back, quietly, strategically, changed passwords, Removed shared logins, cancelled old cards, slowly detached. But apparently I didn't go far enough, because they still had access to one old card, the one I'd used for Thanksgiving groceries last year. That's how they paid for Maya's graduation party. With my money. The realization hit me hard. Not just the theft, the betrayal, the pure audacity. They hadn't just forgotten me. They'd used me. Again. I sat in my car for a long time that night. Not crying, just stunned. I opened Instagram. There was Maya, laughing next to the cake I'd unknowingly paid for, holding a custom sign that said, "She did it!" No tag, no birthday message, nothing. The next morning, she posted a shot of her gifts and wrote, "So grateful for my amazing family. Guess who wasn't in any of the pictures?" That was when something in me shifted. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was furious. Not the yelling kind, not the firestorm kind, the cold kind, the kind that sits in your chest like ice. I started collecting receipts. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. Not my parents, not Maya, definitely not social media. I wasn't trying to start a war. I just wanted it to stop. That feeling of always being the afterthought, the reliable one, the one they could borrow from, guilt trip, and then ignore like a used napkin. I'd had enough. So I gathered proof. Every charge on that old credit card, date, time, vendor, amount, screenshot. There it was, $500 sto, the venue $900 sto, the bakery. A $200 flour order with "Congrats, Maya," typed right into the notes. Catering invoice sent directly to her email. Rental agreement signed Maya Robinson on behalf of the Robinson family, paid with my card. Even a set of texts from months ago where Maya asked, "You're not going to make a big deal about your birthday, right? I kind of want the spotlight, lol." Back then, I ignored it. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. This wasn't an accident. This was planned. And this time, I wasn't going to be the bigger person. I wasn't going to swallow it, journal about it, and move on. I walked into the local police station that Friday with a folder in hand and calm in my chest. Explained everything, laid it all out. No dramatics, no yelling. I wasn't trying to ruin her life. I was trying to stop her from bulldozing mine. The officer looked a little uncomfortable at first when I said the suspect was my sister. I told him it was fine. I wasn't looking for revenge. I just wanted her to be held accountable for once. For something. He asked me if I gave her permission to use the card. I said no. He asked if I was aware she had it. I said not anymore. That I'd cancelled it now, but she'd used it without consent. That was enough to file a fraud report. I signed the paperwork, answered a few more questions, walked out into the sunshine and sat on the steps, unsure what I should feel. Relief? Guilt? Peace? Mostly, I just felt tired. 2 days later, Maya texted me, "Hey, can you Venmo me for the Uber from the party? It was kinda your night too, lol." I stared at the screen for a second, then just locked my phone and put it face down on the table. I didn't respond, and I didn't need to. 2 weeks after that, I got a call. Not a text, a full-blown call. 6:13 am. I let it ring. Then another one. And another fourth time, I picked up. Not because I wanted to, but because I started to wonder if someone had died. "Noah?" Her voice cracked on the first syllable. Oh my God. I'm at the police station. She was crying. Not cute crying. Ugly, panicked sobs. "They're saying there's a report. Fraud. With your name on it. Why would you do this to me?" I rubbed my eyes and sat up in bed. Turned on the light like I needed it to stay grounded. So that's the part you're upset about, not the part where you stole from me. There was a pause on the line, a sharp inhale. Defensive mode activated. "I didn't steal," she snapped. It was a party for both of us. Mum said it was fine. You're seriously doing this to your own sister. There it was. The Maya special play the victim, invoke the family card, and spin it like I'm the problem. Are they questioning you? I asked. Yes. They want me to explain the purchases. They said I could be charged. Noah, this is serious. No kidding, I said. Almost like committing fraud has consequences. She started crying again. Louder this time. Less scared. More performative. You're ruining my life over a cake and some flowers? No, I said. I'm finally choosing not to let you ruin mine. Later I found out exactly what happened. Turns out she'd taken a picture of my credit card during Thanksgiving. I'd left my wallet out on the kitchen counter. She snapped a pic, stored it, then manually entered the numbers into vendor websites for her party. When asked how she got the card info, she told the officer, I figured he wouldn't care. It was for both of us. They asked if she had permission. She said, well, he didn't say no. I couldn't even be mad. That was classic Maya logic. By the next afternoon, my phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Mom, you've gone too far. Maya is devastated. Dad, really? Over a misunderstanding? This is your sister. Aunt Diane, who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years, whatever happened to just talking things out like adults? I didn't respond to any of them. Not because I didn't care, but because for once I cared more about myself. That night, Maya showed up at my apartment. I don't know how she got in the building. My guess? She cried at the door until someone let her through. That's kind of her thing. I opened the door halfway, just enough to see her blotchy face. Mascara streaks down her cheeks, hair frizzing at the edges. I'm not here to fight, she said, wiping her nose with her sleeve. I just need you to drop the report. Please. They said this could stay on my record. I might not be able to get a job. Or travel. Or rent an apartment. I cut her off. You lied about needing money for a medical procedure. You took a picture of my credit card without permission. You planned a graduation party for yourself on my birthday and then made it seem like I was the one being dramatic. She whispered. I didn't know it would go this far. That's the problem, Maya. It never goes far for you. Because people like me always clean it up. Cue the tears. Again, you're doing this to punish me, she choked. You've always been jealous of me. That one made me laugh. Out loud. Jealous? I repeated. Yeah, I've always dreamed of being the sibling who manipulates her way through life and ruins credit scores. Her eyes narrowed. The crying stopped. Just like that. You think you're better than me, she said, voice flat. You're not. You're just bitter. You always have been. No, I said. I'm just done. Then I closed the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't yell. Just closed it. Quiet. Final. Over the next week, it escalated. My parents started calling daily, not to apologize, to beg me to fix this. Apparently, Maya had a job offer from a marketing firm, but the background check flagged the police report and the offer got pulled. Mum screamed over the phone. You've destroyed your sister's future, I said. I wasn't trying to destroy her future. I was protecting my own. They didn't hear me. They never do. A few days later, I got a voicemail from my dad. Calm voice, measured tone. Son, I know you felt overlooked. I get that. But this isn't the way. Family means doing things you don't always like. That's just how it is. I played it twice. Once to hear what he said. Once to hear what he didn't say. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another request to let it go. To be the bigger person. Again. And that's when I realized in my family, keeping the peace just meant keep quiet while we walk over you. A week later, Maya texted me, "You win. I hope you're proud of yourself." And the wild part? I wasn't proud. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just done. Done carrying guilt that wasn't mine. Done being the dependable backup plan while Maya got standing ovations for showing up. Done pretending that family was a free pass to be exploited. By the time that text came through, I thought the storm was finally over. But I'd underestimated one thing. A cornered Maya isn't just dramatic. She's dangerous. And she wasn't done. 3 days after Maya sent that "you win" text, I made the mistake of thinking we'd reached the end of it. I'd underestimated her. Because when Maya feels like she's losing, she doesn't back off. She rallies the troops. I got called down to the front lobby at work. My coworker said there was someone asking for me urgently. It was my mum. No warning, no text. Just showed up. Like this was a casual drop-in. She looked me up and down like I'd failed a blood oath. "I raised you better than this," she said, like that was the start of a reasonable conversation. I nodded toward the sidewalk, and we stepped outside. She crossed her arms tight across her chest, clicked her heels as she walked like she was stomping out a fire. "You've humiliated your sister," she snapped. "She might not get another job offer. Do you even understand what you've done?" "Yeah," I said. I stopped covering for her. She reeled. "Not from shame, from anger. You're doing this out of spite. Over one party? One party. You used my money. You erased my birthday. And now you're here telling me I'm the problem." She kept going. "We supported you growing up. We paid for your school, your clothes, I cut in, and I gave you a down payment on your house. Covered your electricity for 2 years. But let's talk more about that one pair of sneakers from 2003. That shut her up for a second. Then she said something that stayed with me more than it should have. "That was your choice. We never asked you to help. No, they never asked. They just expected it. Expected me to be the backup plan, the wallet, the silent one. But silence stops being noble when it turns into permission." "I'm not dropping the report," I said. "And if Maya has any sense left, she'll take the deal the officer gave her." My mom narrowed her eyes. "You're not just punishing her, you're punishing this whole family." I shrugged. Then maybe this family should have stopped treating me like a stranger with a credit limit. I walked back inside, didn't look back. 2 days later, Maya went public. She posted a long, cryptic caption on Instagram. Something about betrayal. Family turning their backs. People weaponizing pain for control. She tagged every cousin, every aunt, even our grandma. The comments rolled in. "Who would do that to you? You're so strong, Em. Rise above it. Family doesn't always mean loyalty." I didn't reply. I didn't even open it after the first glance, but I did screenshot the whole thing. I was learning. The next morning, my phone buzzed with missed calls. Uncle Tim, Aunt Rosie, even my old babysitter. Then came the direct message from my cousin Layla. "They're drowning. Don't throw them a life raft." But Maya wasn't done. She emailed my boss. "No, I'm not kidding." She sent a message pretending to be a concerned family friend and warned that I might be acting out in ways that could affect workplace dynamics. Luckily, my boss is an ex-attorney who drinks black coffee at 8 p.m. and runs ultra marathons for fun. She forwarded the email to me with one sentence: "Let me know if I should block her." I replied, "Might be wise. She's going through an identity crisis." We laughed about it in the break room later, but inside I felt shaken. Not scared, just sad. That this was who she'd become. Or maybe who she always was. The legal side moved faster than I expected. Between the clear charges, the signed rental contract in her name, and the screenshots I'd provided, the case built itself. The officer handling the report offered Maya a deal. Full repayment, 100 hours of community service. Enroll in a financial accountability workshop. No charges, no record, no court. She just had to admit what she did. She refused, said it was humiliating, said it would make her look guilty. The officer said, "You are guilty." It wasn't until the marketing firm officially withdrew their offer that she finally folded. She took the deal. Not because she felt remorse, because she ran out of options. That's how it goes with Maya. She got a part-time job at a pet supply store a few weeks later. Minimum wage, evenings and weekends. Her career launch turned into stocking dog food and sweeping up cat litter. Our parents tried one last time to fix it. A group call. The tone was soft, like a PR campaign. "We just want to talk," my mum said. As a family, Maya was on the call, quiet at first. "Then, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean to hurt you." I waited a beat, then asked, "What exactly are you sorry for?" Silence. Then a half-mumbled answer, "For taking your card without asking." "That's not what happened," I said. "You stole from me." Thick silence on the other end. My dad's voice came in next. Cold this time. "You've made your point. So what now? You want to cut us off?" "No," I said. "I'm just done pretending any of this is normal." Then I hung up. No yelling, no threats, just done. 3 months passed. Maya completed her workshop, still working part-time, still laying low. Our parents never called. Not once. No apology. No birthday card. But I had moved, new city, new job, bigger apartment, smaller circle. And for once, it was quiet. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. "Maya, saw you moved. Hope you're good. I could really use someone to talk to." I stared at it, and then I did something that once felt impossible. I turned off my phone, made some tea, sat out on my balcony as the sky changed colours and the city hummed beneath me. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Even now, part of me still asks, was I too harsh? Could I have handled it differently? But then I think about all the times I stayed quiet, all the birthdays, all the stolen money, all the moments where I was expected to be the bigger person. And I realized this wasn't revenge, it was closure. So, what do you think? Was it finally time someone held her accountable? Or should I have just let it go one more time? Let me know. I'm curious. Thanks for listening. And if you've ever been the forgotten sibling, the reliable one, the backup plan, I hope you choose yourself too. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Just walk away. And mean it. Story 3. "You don't deserve this success," my father said, half standing, half slurring right in the middle of what was supposed to be my graduation celebration. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just raised my glass with a quiet smirk and said, "Then maybe you should ask Mason to pay your bills." The words landed like a needle drop in a silent room. A few people blinked. One fork paused mid-air, and somewhere behind me, the guy with the acoustic guitar stopped mid-strum. That moment was the last time I ever looked back at them. Let me rewind. Graduation night should have felt like a victory lap. I had made it through 5 relentless years at Crestwood State, a top-tier public university, balancing scholarships, tutoring jobs, and early shifts at a cafe that always smelled like burnt espresso and mop water. My name was finally printed on a degree, proof that I had survived something no one in my family had even shown up to support. Still, I invited them, all of them. I emptied my savings on this dinner, rented a rooftop space, ordered trays of food that could feed a wedding, hung string lights like I was auditioning for a Pinterest board. I even hired a local musician because I wanted it to feel like something more than survival. I wanted it to feel earned. My mum was there, as always, quiet and mildly present. My aunt and uncle hovered, like they weren't sure whether they were supporting me or just watching out of obligation. My cousins ran around collecting balloon strings. And my father? He strolled in late, already buzzed, in a fishing shirt and that same smirk he wore when he wanted to remind people he didn't take anything too seriously, including me. Mason didn't come. He rarely did. But that didn't stop Dad from bringing him up within 5 minutes of arriving. And that toast? It was the same script, just louder. You don't deserve this success. Mason did. He said it standing up, like he was about to congratulate me, but instead delivered the kind of line that breaks open years of quiet disappointments. He didn't stumble. He didn't laugh. He meant it. I meant it too when I replied. That moment hit me like the final confirmation of something I had long suspected. My father would never be proud of me. Not if I cured cancer, won the lottery, or landed on the moon. His son, the real one, apparently was Mason. Always Mason. I set down my glass, locked eyes with him, and walked out. Not in anger, not even in sadness, just clarity. I didn't go home after, couldn't sit in my empty apartment and let the whole scene replay in my head. Instead, I drove. No destination. Just me, the road, and silence. I ended up at Skyline Bluff, a local lookout spot where high schoolers used to sneak beers and kiss like their lives depended on it. I parked, turned off the engine, and cracked the window. The cold air hit like truth. You don't deserve this success. The sentence echoed in my head, not as pain but as revelation. This degree? I earned it without them, without a single check from home, without any cheerleaders. Mason flunked out of community college his second semester, and yet he was still the brilliant one. He was the one my father called hard-working, even after nearly getting fired from GameStop for sleeping in the break room. I was 16 when I got my first job folding denim at a department store just to buy my own school clothes. Mason got caught stealing from my mum's purse and somehow got a brand new gaming console 2 days later because he was stressed. The favoritism wasn't subtle, it was brutal in its consistency. But I never had proof. Until that one weekend, junior year, when I went home and saw Mason's tuition bill on the kitchen counter, paid in full. My name never made it onto one of those forms. I still didn't say anything. I convinced myself maybe they thought I didn't need help. Maybe they couldn't afford to support both of us. Maybe. But standing on that rooftop, hearing my father toast the son who didn't even show up while dismissing everything I had fought through, that shattered every maybe I had clung to. And once I let go of those maybes, the pattern became impossible to ignore. They never believed in me. And the thing about growing up invisible, you learn to disappear without noise. You carry burdens quietly, you survive without applause. But that night, something shifted. I didn't want to disappear anymore. I didn't want to be the background character in my own story. That was the beginning of the end. Over the next week, I didn't answer calls, didn't check messages. My aunt messaged me on Facebook to say Dad wasn't himself that night, that he didn't mean it. Mom left a voicemail telling me not to let one moment ruin everything, but it wasn't one moment. It was a lifetime. Like the time I got accepted into Crestwood and Dad shrugged and said, "Don't expect us to help with that." Or when I broke my arm during gym class and still got blamed for missing track practice. Meanwhile, Mason failed algebra and was rewarded with a weekend getaway to recharge. I had been clinging to a fantasy that someday, if I worked hard enough, they'd see me. That if I racked up enough wins, they'd finally say, "We're proud of you." But that moment never came. They weren't evil, just indifferent. And that hurt more. They didn't resent me. Resentment requires presence. They simply didn't care enough to notice me unless I was useful. Dad needed help with taxes. I was the reliable one. Mum's laptop crashed. I was tech support. Mason needed a ride to another job interview he wouldn't show up for. Guess who they called? The funny thing is, I was never the one who needed them. Not really. I just kept hoping they'd choose me anyway. They didn't. So I chose myself. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't throw out all our old photos, didn't post a cryptic quote on Instagram. I just started moving in silence. 2 days after the dinner, I looked at the one picture I had asked the waiter to take me standing at the edge of the patio, everyone else blurry in the background. I didn't look proud. I looked drained, like someone who had carried too much for too long and finally put the weight down. I picked up my phone, not to call, to block. Dad, Mum, Mason. The family group chat. One by one. Then I packed. I had been living in that one-bedroom apartment because it was close to home. Close enough to show up if they needed something. Far enough to pretend I had boundaries. It had never felt like mine, just a placeholder. A waiting room between trying and giving up. I listed my furniture online, paid off the last chunk of my student loans with what I made, found a studio apartment in a city where no one knew my name, signed the lease, packed a single carload of essentials. I left without telling anyone. I didn't need a send-off. I didn't want one. The only personal item I hung up in that new space, my diploma, not to show off, not even for motivation, just as a quiet reminder, I did that. Alone. That first night in the new apartment, there was no couch, no bed frame, just a mattress on the floor, a folding chair, and the kind of silence that doesn't feel lonely. It felt like breathing. And in that stillness, something started to grow, a memory of who I used to be, before I became the dependable one, before I forgot what I wanted. I remembered I liked to cook. So I made roasted vegetables and garlic pasta and ate it at a table I had assembled myself. I remembered I liked to draw. Found an old sketch pad while unpacking and filled 3 pages in one night. I remembered I liked being alone because for the first time in forever, it didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. And then came the knock. 3 months later,